Former Alabama receiver Javon Baker calls out Kentucky in pair of Instagram posts. Now, this is a very unique story regarding a kid who thought he had transferred from Alabama to Kentucky. It says, Thursday morning, Javon Baker was still expected to be a member of the Kentucky football program, but Thursday afternoon, news broke that the former Alabama wide receiver decommitted, and a cryptic social media post fueled speculation about what happened. Baker posted 2 pictures on his Instagram story about the decision and brought about some questions regarding what happened. He initially called out reporters' sources about the story, but then confirmed the decommitment. So you take a look at so I guess this is some Kentucky social media Twitter account, recruiting account, and they're like, question mark. We're like, what is this dude talking about? So these were his Insta stories. Just woke up. How y'all gonna decommit for me? What kind of sources is y'all? So I'm guessing something happened with Kentucky where this kid thought he was transferring there, and it got out that the coaches were not going to allow him to transfer there, or something happened, and he legitimately didn't know, but sources reported that he wasn't going to be transferring to Kentucky. And then the next story, you can see he's got his, I love this dude's style. Look at that nice little photo. Oh, well, never mind. Guess they did decommit me. Their damn self. I wanted to play for Kentucky. Bigger and better plans. Most High got me. I love this kid. This is amazing. So something happened where this kid thought he was transferring. He goes into the portal from Alabama. Former 4-star recruit, top 300 player in the nation. I don't know what class he was a part of, but he goes to the transfer portal. He thinks he's transferring to Kentucky. There were some sort of sources or, news reporters that got wind from Kentucky that he was not going to be a member of their program for whatever reason. He says he wakes up. He's like, what are these people talking about? Of course, I'm transferring to Kentucky. And then, like, Kentucky's coaching staff, I said, wait, no, dude, you're not allowed to transfer here. So I don't know. And then he puts this out. Well, never mind. They did decommit me. So the reporters decommitted for him. Very interesting story there. Just another day in modern college football recruiting, modern college transfer portal. Where does it say where he was ranked? It says he was in the 2018 class, the 204th overall prospect. So not a bad player at all. He should be able to find, some place to go. He did only catch 9 passes in 2 years at Alabama, and he has not caught a pass since Bama's win over New Mexico State on November 13th. I'm guessing he was playing, mop-up duty in that game. The next thing I wanted to talk about, this is very interesting. So, Cedric Baxter Jr. adds Alabama to his top 5 list, the number 1 running back in the On 300. Cedric Baxter Jr. recently named a top 5 consisting of Texas, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Florida, and Miami, a.k.a. the usual NIL suspects. This is a very interesting story, and you follow different recruiting sites, things like that. It had been reported this kid visited Columbus, Ohio State. They're desperate for a top running back in their 2023 class, but he left Ohio State off of his final 5, and you can see his final 5, Texas, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Florida, and Miami. That was his original final 5. The speculation around Ohio State, around these other programs, was that this kid wanted a major NIL deal, and Ohio State doesn't do that. They don't give kids money just to come to the school because that is illegal, and you've got the usual suspects. However, he tells On3 that he will be making a change from the original finalists and will now take off Arkansas and add Alabama. So is this Nick Saban saying, you know what, Jimbo, you don't want there to be rules? I'll play like that. Or is this just a kid saying, you know what, NIL is not the end-all be-all. I can still get an NIL deal when I go to Tuscaloosa. Alabama's a great program. They know how to develop players. It could be either one. But we could get Nick Saban going just completely haywire and saying, hey, Jimbo, if that's how you want to play. And could you imagine if Alabama really empties their NIL tank like Texas A&M did with Nick Saban not only having NIL to play with, but also saying, look at all the first-round picks I've put into the NFL. Alabama would sign 10 5-stars in 2023. So this is not what we want. I don't think it's what's happening. I just think Cedric Baxter Jr., it was rumored he wants an NIL deal. He may still want that. This might be a situation where he's including Alabama just to kind of say, you know what, NIL's not everything. I could still get an NIL deal when I go to Bama. Again, the difference is this kid wants an NIL deal to go to a school. So he wants to be paid to go to Texas A&M or paid to go to Texas. A lot of recruits are like that now, and a program like Ohio State will see that and say, that's not how we do things. You can get an NIL deal, but you got to come here first. The kid wants the NIL deal up front. And this, it's saying he's the number 1 running back. I believe he's actually the number 3 running back right now in the country. You've got Richard Young as the number 1 running back. Alabama's also in on him. Ohio State's in on him. That's going to be a crazy recruitment. And then Reuben Owens is the number 2 running back. And I heard Louisville was in on Reuben Owens. Also Texas. He's from Texas, Reuben Owens is. That's the current favorite. But that's a very interesting story on Cedric Baxter Jr., who certainly could finish a 5-star. He might get moved up. We don't know. There's still a lot of time left for the 2023 recruiting rankings to be updated. But right now, I do believe he is the number 3 number 3 running back in the class of 2023, who now includes Alabama in his top 5. And it's unique because Alabama's been against giving kids money. We saw the whole thing with Jimbo and Saban. But now, have they changed course? Are they saying, all right, you guys win, we'll just cheat, whatever, the NCAA is not going to police it? It's a very interesting situation to monitor. Also, another thing that I saw, this is something I have been saying since the day it happened. Joel Klatt not buying stock in Brian Kelly and LSU. And basically, in this article, Joel Klatt says exactly what I've been saying. The fit between Brian Kelly and LSU, especially now with how NIL is, makes absolutely no sense. What I've been saying recently now, it's like oil and water. Brian Kelly and LSU, 0 sense at all. And I like Joel Klatt as an announcer. I hate that he does Big Noon, and we're gonna get to the Big Noon stuff because, it's ridiculous what Big Noon's doing. But Joel Klatt, 100% correct on it. It's what I've been saying. Brian Kelly and LSU, the culture fit is the complete opposite. I put the over-under on how long this dude lasts at LSU at 2.5 years. I think the under hits. I think he's gone after 2 years. Originally, I had said 3, but it's going to be such a disaster. It is such a horrible fit, and I can't, it's crazy. And then this is a quick shout out. If a lot of people, maybe you're not following the 2023 recruiting cycle, Notre Dame is really putting in work on the 2023 recruiting class. They signed another solid 4-star running back. You look at their class, they're number 1 in the nation right now with 13 commits. But it's not just the 13 commits. It's the average score of 93.60, which is a great average to have when you've got 13 commits. This Notre Dame class is clearly a step up from the classes they've signed in the past. Yes, they signed a lot of 4-stars in the past, but we're seeing more high-end 4-stars commit to Notre Dame. They have put together such a nice infrastructure. Marcus Freeman, first-year head coach, and they're still in on some big names. If they somehow land Dante Moore, I don't think they will. I think Dante Moore wants a big NIL deal that they're not going to be able to match, or they might not want to match. But if they're able to land him, he's a 5-star superstar quarterback from the state of Michigan. This class goes to the next level, and this class becomes truly elite. But right now, you're talking about a 5-star superstar pass rusher they have. They've got a bunch of solid 4-star commits, and they should finish with what they're doing right now. I would say maybe 4th or 5th in the nation, with the only schools being in front of them would be like Alabama, A&M, Georgia, and Ohio State. That's what it's looking like. They're putting together such a great young nucleus of solid 4-star talent. I just wanted to shout them out because they've been doing such a good job. And then we've also got Jackson State landing a 4-star Isaiah Kendall And I thought this was just funny. Like, it's so seeing a team like Jackson State land these kids is surprising, but I don't think this is some crazy NIL situation. Even without NIL, the idea of playing for Deion Sanders is so freaking cool for some of these kids. They were like, without NIL, they would land some of these kids. Now, they wouldn't land Travis Hunter without NIL, but they would land some of these 4-stars. And if you actually go to Jackson State's all-time top football recruits, the top 17 all-time top football recruits are Deion Sanders recruits, and he's been there the past 2 years. It's crazy. The top 17 all-time top recruits in Jackson State history have all been, recruited and committed because of Deion Sanders. So I just thought that was cool. And then we also have another thing I wanted to look at was some different game times. So the first 3 weeks for basically every single major conference, the first 3 weeks game times have been announced. And this is a big one right off the bat. You've got Texas A&M. That game is at College Station against Miami. I believe that's a Week 3 game, September 17th, 8 o'clock, ESPN. That's probably going to be a massive recruiting night for Texas A&M. What an unbelievable non-conference game that's going to be. Texas A&M, very young and very talented. Miami trying to, on the come up with a really good young quarterback. There's other game times, as you can see. I'm just going to kind of rapid fire through this. So the Big Ten, you can see the Week 0 game, Nebraska and Northwestern. That game will be in Dublin, Ireland, and that's going to start at 12:30 on Fox. So that's going to be like the first big game of the entire season. It's the Week 0 game, and I believe that will be at around 7:30 Ireland time. If that is correct, if it's like a 7-hour time difference, I don't know. But then you can see the Week 1 games, Ohio State, Notre Dame. We knew that was going to be the ABC primetime 7:30 matchup. You also have, looks like Michigan and Colorado State. That game will be on noon on ABC. And the FS1 game is a random Wisconsin-Illinois State game at 7 o'clock. You take a look at Week 2, Ohio State takes on Arkansas State. That game will be on the Big Ten Network at noon. So I'm pretty happy that game's at noon. You want to get those games out of the way quickly. When Ohio State faces a team like Arkansas State, when they're probably going to be like 40-point favorites, you prefer it to be on at noon. At least that's just my opinion. Illinois takes on Virginia. That'll be a big game for them. That's 4 o'clock on ESPNU. And then the FS1 game is going to be Nebraska at home against Georgia Southern, a night game for them. And then you take a look at the Week 3 games. You have anything big here, ESPN2 matchup. Purdue goes to Syracuse. I like Purdue's chances in that game. That'll be a big game for the Big Ten. Nebraska, Oklahoma. It gets we're going to talk about it. It gets the Fox big noon treatment. So Nebraska, it could have been an unbelievable atmosphere at night with Oklahoma in town. It's not going to happen. It's an 11 a.m. Central start time in Nebraska. That is horrible. You've got the big non-conference game for Week 3 in the Big Ten. It's actually going to be Michigan State traveling to Washington in what should be a absolutely great non-conference game. That's the 7:30 ABC game. I'm looking forward to that. Anytime you get a matchup between two teams that very rarely play each other, like when are we ever going to see Michigan State travel to Washington University? You're not going to see that. And then you also have Ohio State taking on Toledo. That game's going to actually be on at 7 o'clock. I wish that game was on at noon, but that game's on at 7 o'clock. Also very interesting, Penn State is going to be on CBS at Auburn. So CBS, we know they get the SEC game exclusively. They also get a major non-conference game between Penn State and Auburn, Week 3. That game's right smack dab in the middle at 3:30. That is their primetime game. And then this is actually CBS's full broadcast schedule. If you take a look at October 8th, that is going to be their primetime game. And I've already, thought about this. I believe it's going to be the Saban versus Jimbo game in Tuscaloosa. That's going to be the SEC one primetime game they get at night. A lot of these games are TBD. They're just going to pick whatever the best SEC game is at the time, and they will do that. This is the Pac-12 overall schedule. There's a lot. I don't like how they do this. It's just so much info to try and, swift through. But you're looking at Clemson. You know, they got Georgia Tech on the road, Furman at home, Louisiana Tech at home. Florida State faces LSU. That's that Sunday night game. I believe is it neutral site? Is that a neutral site game in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, the home of the Saints? It might be. That one might be. And then you've got, NC State's, wow, they have a very easy, NC State should have a very simple, calm start to the year. They have a very easy non-conference schedule. And then just looking at, you can see any other important things there. Not really. Oh, yeah, Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh has their big game against Tennessee at home, week 2, 3:30 ABC. By the way, Brennan Armstrong is just going to put up stupid stats the first 3 weeks. They face Richmond, Illinois, and Old Dominion. That's a random 2 o'clock start time on the ACC network. I think I have the ACC network. Don't you get, it was weird. I thought because I live in Big Ten country, I didn't get the SEC network, but I've had the SEC network forever. I just didn't even know. I didn't bother to check. So maybe I do get the ACC network. But then this is Big Noon. And the worst case scenario for Texas, their game against Alabama gets put on Big Noon. Oh my God. I hate Big Noon so much. Oklahoma at Nebraska and then Michigan at Ohio State. Of course, that's going to be on Big Noon. But the Alabama-Texas game is officially announced. People were wondering, maybe the heat index, it's too hot in Texas, in early September. They're going to put it on at a different time. It's not happening. So that is very unfortunate that the Alabama-Texas game, everyone was dreading it was going to happen. Obviously, I was deathly afraid the Notre Dame-Ohio State game was going to somehow get on Big Noon, but we dodged a huge bullet with that, with ESPN picking up its rights and putting it on primetime ABC 7:30. The only good thing about Fox when compared to ESPN, it seems to have better picture quality. At least for me, it just has slightly more Ultra HD picture quality than ESPN, but in terms of the game times, you cannot put Notre Dame and Ohio State on at noon. And then next year, because Ohio State and Notre Dame have a home and home, next year the game's going to be in South Bend, and that game will be on NBC exclusively and very likely will be a 7:30 game. I believe that's week 3. It's not going to be week 1 next year. So Ohio State this year, they get Notre Dame week 1, and I think Ohio State's going to annihilate Notre Dame. Next year, it could be interesting because Ohio State's going to be breaking in a new quarterback. Notre Dame should have a returning quarterback. They're getting more talented. It should be a really great home and home between those two programs. But just wanted to go through the time, the different game times that have been released. Week 1, week 2, week 3, along with week 0. All those game times have been released, guys. If you want to look at those, you can go on ESPN. You can search your team, whatever. Just wanted to talk about that. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.